Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Great English Podcast. Before we get started, we'd love for you to stay with us until the end of this episode. I promise you'll walk away with some valuable tips to enhance your English speaking skills, learn new vocabulary, and avoid common mistakes that many learners make. So, grab a cup of tea or coffee, sit back, and let's get started. I'm so excited about today's episode, because it's been one of the most requested topics from you. And joining me, as always, is my fantastic co-host, Mark. Mark, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling great, Catherine. Really excited for today's discussion. But I'm curious, what exactly are we diving into?
Oh, good point, Mark. I guess I got carried away and forgot to mention it. Today, we're going to explore different ways to improve English speaking skills, especially for those who are learning it as a second language. We'll talk about practical tips, effective techniques, and some fantastic resources that can make the learning process more engaging and fun.
That sounds brilliant. I think a lot of our listeners will find this very useful. Catherine, I'm curious, is English your first language?
No, actually. My native language is French. I started learning English in school, but didn't really become fluent until I immersed myself in an English-speaking environment later on. What about you, Mark?
My story is somewhat similar. I'm originally from Brazil, so Portuguese is my first language. Learning English was challenging at first, but I chose to learn it because it's widely used around the world and crucial for both personal and professional growth.
That makes a lot of sense. But was that the only reason you decided to learn English?
Definitely not. Aside from its global importance, learning English has connected me with people from different cultures, given me access to a vast range of knowledge, and helped me explore more entertainment options. Plus, it's just fun to learn and speak. But, Catherine, let me ask you, what challenges did you face when learning English?
Oh, there were quite a few. One of the biggest challenges for me was speaking fluently and confidently. I found myself understanding everything, but when it was time to speak, I'd often freeze. It made me feel so nervous and frustrated.
I completely understand that, Catherine. I had the same problem. It's a common struggle for many learners. Speaking a new language can be intimidating because we worry about making mistakes or not finding the right words, and that fear holds us back.
Exactly. I had to remind myself that language is a tool, a bridge that connects us to people and cultures. I wanted to be able to cross that bridge and communicate effectively with as many people as possible.
That's a wonderful perspective. And knowing English really does help us connect in today's global world. Plus, it opens doors to better job opportunities, travel experiences, and even new friendships.
Absolutely. And one thing that helped me was setting small, achievable goals. For instance, I started by having short conversations with native English speakers, or practicing speaking for a few minutes each day. These little steps really boosted my confidence over time.
That's a great tip, Catherine. I also found that practicing with native speakers made a big difference. How did you find native speakers to practice with?
Good question. I actually lived in the UK for several years, so I was fortunate to have plenty of opportunities to practice speaking with native English speakers daily. But not everyone has that kind of access. What would you suggest for those who don't?
There are many ways to practice even if you're not in an English-speaking country. Language learning apps like Cambly, italki, and HelloTalk are great for connecting with native speakers. You can have conversations over video or audio calls, and many of these platforms offer both free and paid options.
Yes, and for those who prefer face-to-face interaction, there are language exchange programs like Tandem or Conversation Exchange. These platforms match you with a language partner, so you can help each other learn. You can also find English-speaking clubs or communities in your area, or online to practice regularly.
Another fun way is to find a friend who's also learning English. You can set up regular practice sessions and help each other out. Correct each other's mistakes and encourage each other. It makes the process a lot less stressful and much more enjoyable.
And don't forget about watching English movies, TV shows, or listening to English music and podcasts. This exposes you to different accents and speaking styles, which is a great way to improve your listening and speaking skills.
That's an excellent point, Catherine. Speaking of learning, another common challenge learners face is expanding their vocabulary. Many people tell us that they know the words, but they struggle to recall them when speaking. It's like the words are in their mind, but they just won't come out.
I hear that all the time. And I think many learners make the mistake of trying to memorize long lists of vocabulary without any context. It's not the best way to learn.
I agree. Learning words in isolation doesn't help much. It's much more effective to learn words in context, by seeing them used in sentences, stories, or conversations. This way, you understand how the words are used in real-life situations, which makes them easier to remember.
Exactly. Reading books, articles, or even watching English TV shows and movies can help you see how new words are used naturally. And whenever you come across a new word, try to use it in your own sentences or conversations. This will help reinforce your understanding and memory.
I also recommend keeping a vocabulary journal. Write down new words you learn, along with their meanings and example sentences. Reviewing this journal regularly can help strengthen your memory and give you a handy reference when you're speaking.
Another great way to build vocabulary is by using flashcards. Create flashcards for new words with the word on one side and the definition, or an example sentence on the other. Go through these flashcards daily to keep the words fresh in your mind.
And don't forget to use technology to your advantage. There are apps like Anki or Quizlet that help you create digital flashcards and use spaced repetition, a learning technique that shows you the flashcards at increasing intervals, helping you remember better over time.
That's a fantastic idea, Mark. Now, let's talk a bit about listening skills. I remember struggling to understand different accents when I first started watching English movies and shows. I had to pause and rewind constantly just to grasp the dialogue.
I've been there too, Catherine. It can be really challenging, especially when you're not used to hearing various accents. But the key is to keep at it. The more you listen, the easier it becomes to understand.
Absolutely. Consistency is crucial. And don't be afraid to use subtitles if you're struggling to understand. Over time, try watching with subtitles in English, so you can match the words with the pronunciation.
That's a great tip. And don't forget about podcasts and audiobooks. They're excellent for practicing listening skills because you can listen to them anytime, while commuting, exercising, or doing chores. The more exposure you have, the more comfortable you'll become with the language.
One trick I found helpful is to slow down the audio speed when listening to podcasts or watching videos. Many platforms allow you to adjust the speed, making it easier to catch every word and understand the nuances of the conversation.
Catherine, I think it's also important to encourage our listeners to be patient with themselves. Learning a language is a journey, and it's okay to make mistakes. Every mistake is an opportunity to learn.
That's such a good point, Mark. Don't be too hard on yourself, and enjoy the process. Celebrate your progress, no matter how small. And remember, every bit of effort you put in brings you one step closer to fluency.
And let's talk a bit more about fluency. It's important to remember that fluency isn't just about speaking quickly or knowing a lot of words. It's about being able to communicate your ideas clearly and confidently, even if you make a few mistakes along the way.
That's so true. Fluency comes from practice and patience. Focus on expressing yourself rather than on perfection. The more you speak, the more fluent you'll become.
Right, and let's not forget grammar. Some people think they need to master every single grammar rule to be fluent. What do you think, Catherine?
I'd say grammar is important, but you don't need to know every rule by heart. Focus on the basics, the rules that are most useful for everyday conversations. As you gain more confidence, your grammar will naturally improve.
Exactly. It's more beneficial to understand and apply the key grammar concepts rather than memorizing every rule. Practice using these concepts in context, and you'll find that they become second nature.
And if you're preparing for exams or professional settings, it's definitely helpful to have a solid grasp of grammar. But remember, the goal is effective communication, so focus on the aspects of grammar that help you achieve that. Well, Mark, this has been an incredibly informative episode. I hope our listeners feel more confident and equipped to tackle their English learning journey.
I hope so too. Remember, it's all about practice, patience, and finding the methods that work best for you. Keep practicing, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Absolutely. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode.
And don't forget to share your experiences and tips in the comments below. We love hearing from you and learning about your journey.
Thanks so much for tuning in. Until next time, keep practicing and happy learning.
Goodbye for now.
Bye everyone. See you in next one.